Now, friends, we have a different rendering technique. We have a resolution setting that is very important. On Instagram or in different places, you can change the resolution and render. When we press the eye icon here, it would take Ultra HD as 4K in the output section. If you say custom, it will take it as 1920 by 1800, friends. Look, you specify that from here. Look, when I open Save as Frame, the blackness here, meaning the white area outside of this blackness, in other words, the render screen, shows that it is 1920 by 1820. If you say 18, 20 by 19, 20 here, it switches to Instagram resolution. So 1820, look, I said 1920. As you can see, it's a process like this. After doing this, once it becomes Instagram resolution, you need to reduce the field of view to around 35 degrees in the settings section. Friends, when you reduce it to 35, it reaches the normal value. This means it reaches the visual value on Instagram. The value of 35 is the direct eye value used by normal SketchUp. So, because it's the value we see at first glance, the value of 35 and the value of 1800 by 1920 in the output section become our Instagram resolution. Right now, it's saving the file again, friends. You can reduce this saving sequence, but it might cause problems. I can show you that as well. Look, I can take renders like this. I can take animations, friends. Let's imagine we took a render from a place like this. In fact, let's take it like this, friends. Look, I took it and saved it. I said 05. And I saved it, friends. Look, we have obtained a render output like this. Let me show it to you right away. As you can see, you can take it vertically like this and share it. In fact, in the animation section, we will show our renders as animations like this, friends. And, as I said, after setting the resolution to 1800 by 1800 by 1920, you need to adjust the field of view from the main section, friends. Or look, when we switch back to Ultra HD from here, since the palm's field of view or part is close, it will give you a sense of depth, friends. Look, in this way, you can get a render from this depth, like this. For example, if you want to get a render from such an image, you can press this part again, from the output section to render. To increase the bloom effect over here, look from the image section. Do you see the bloom, friends? When I increase the bloom effect like this, when I slightly increase the bloom effect, the output is Ultra HD. When I press this, like this, and call it 06, friends, I press the save button, and it takes a render like this from here. As you can see, we are facing a very high quality, truly ultra quality render screen, friends. Don't hesitate to play with the settings. If you mess up the settings, there is a revert button, there is a rotate back button, there is an arrow symbol, a reverse arrow symbol. When you press it, the settings will be restored. Friends, I want to show another rendering technique here again. Let's take a look at it together. It will be very nice. When I come to the settings section, look, there is a depth of field setting. The depth of field setting sharpens the part you have selected and blurs the rest, friends. Look, I turned off the autofocus section. Look, this line here is the part I will sharpen. I am saying that I want this toy to be sharp and the rest to be blurred, friends. Look, let it be blurred. As you can see, the toy is sharp, but I want to get a little closer like this. Look, let me move closer like this. I need to adjust the autofocus again. I release it when I bring it right over it, friends. Look, the toy is sharp. Other areas are blurred. Let's not exaggerate the blur too much. Let it be just barely visible. Look, we made a precise adjustment like this. I pressed the render button. I said 07. When I press the save button, friends, that area will be sharp and the other areas will be rendered blurred. Look, as you can see. Like this. Let's look again. As you can see, you can take detailed renders like this, friends. Or let's make a different setting like this. Look, let's go like this. It could be a detailed render like this. I came back to the settings again. Depth of field. I want to show this part, the flower part. Look, friends, I brought the focal point like this. I'm doing it slowly, leaving it right on top, as you can see, on top of this. Let me bring this a bit closer as well. Let's adjust the focal point again, friends. As you can see, it appears quite clearly. There's a slight boxiness here. A bit more, yes, a bit further back like this. It's not completely clear. There's a very fine adjustment there, friends. Look, like this. Let's do it like this. Yes, my current image is clear, friends. Let's do it without opening the depth of field too much. I pressed render. I saved it as 0.8. In our next lesson, friends, I will show you how to take animations in terms of renders. We have fine details there. Look, here this part has been made clearer with a fine detail, friends. I will come from this part like this. I say 0.8 from the render. As you can see, it's a process like this, friends. It's a very efficient, very easy and simple rendering technique, and you can achieve even better results with different details in your own projects. I press the eye icon. I removed this to return to my previous settings. I turned off autofocus. I turned off the depth of field. I set this to level 65 friends. It returned to my normal level. In other words, it returned to my navigation level, to be honest. You can change this again and get more detailed renders. In our next part, friends, we will see how to create an animation. There are some techniques in animation. The animation technique is a bit different, friends. I will show the animation technique, and we will see how we can create an animation from this work.